morning, everybody. Big J here. Picked this Benjamin Black Lightning up last week, and it seems to be pretty typical of Crosman products. I mean, it's a great gun. I'm going to do a video on shooting it, but dealing with the trigger on these. And there's a few videos on here about working on those, doing mods to them. I've got one that I did on mine. It's kind of a mixture of different things that I found on there and a couple ideas that I came up with myself to do to it. So, and it's really taken, almost completely eliminate the first stage out of it, which I like. Some people might not like that, but very, very short first stage, good solid second, and pretty crisp. So this is some of the stuff you guys will need. You don't necessarily have to have a pick, just something to reach down in there, needle nose pliers, something like that. We got our Loctite pen. We got some springs and washers and other things here. Some cutters, a set of standard Allen wrenches, and we'll get into why you need those on this guy. So let's get started. Well, I guess I'll start with this, guys. If you don't know, there's a screw here. There's one just like it on the other side, and then right up inside here, there's another screw. It's right in there somewhere, right up in here. You put a screwdriver through there and take it out. That'll allow you to take out this whole assembly. So I'm not going to shoot video of me doing that, but that part's pretty simple. So, alright guys, I'm going to talk a little bit about what we're going to be doing here. This is the NP2 setup on these Benjamins and Crosman air rifles. One of the things we're going to be replacing is this guy right here. Now this is I'll show this to you guys. I've seen a couple videos where guys were like boring that hole out and using thread tape to put a screw in, and which, you know, if you want to do that, that's fine. But I did some poking around. Now on my other Crosman, my F4, I did a trigger mod to it, and this guy is a 3mm by 5mm screw, and you can replace it with a 3mm by 10mm to help take up some of that slack. But this is not, guys. This is a standard thread bolt, which after doing some poking around and doing some figuring, I finally figured that out. So here's what it is, guys. It's a 4 to 40, not by 3/8, not the stock one, but it's a 4 to 40 bolt. I got a 4 to 40 by 3/8, and I went to a hobby store to get this, Hobbytown, USA to be exact. 4 of them for $1.30. Now you can get them on Amazon. I looked it up, but you usually have to buy like 10 of them, but it's like $6. So if you don't have a hobby store, Hobbytown or anything like that close to you, you can do that for an option. You can get on there. Here's what the replacement screw looks like. Grab this. Here is the stock screw. Flathead. Pretty short little bugger. And what that does, we can see back here. Yeah, lighting's not all that great here, but it comes down with a pick. Right in here, guys. And it pushes on this sear that's right here. So you can gain some adjustment here. So that's the screw that you're going to replace. And it's nice because it's exact. I mean, it fits right in there. It's perfect. So, and then let me show you the stock spring first. Here's the factory spring. Pretty stiff. So we pull that guy out. I got this guy at Menards. 1/4 by a 1 1/16 compression spring. And if you have a Menards nearby, I mean, I'm sure they carry them all around the country. Handy pack, part number 88252. This is what the spring. I bought some extra ones just for experimenting purposes in case I screwed something up. So this is what it looks like when it's whole. It's not going to be whole. So we'll show that here in just a sec. Okay guys, so here's the springs. Again, this one here is the factory spring. And as you can see, let me slide this over here. It's hard to do this when you're trying to look through your camera at the same time. It's about half the length of the new spring. So what I did, I took my little snips, I cut that spring in half. And I'll show you guys here in a little bit. I am going to pull this trigger out and show you what I did on the inside there. But I actually ended up, I put that new spring in and kind of felt it, and I ended up actually taking nipping another coil off of the one that's in there. Just kind of came down and just took one more off. I'll show that to you guys too. Alright guys, to get this trigger mechanism out, or to get the trigger out, I'm not going to take the whole pack out. There's this little E-clip right here. On this gun, I saw some videos where there's an actual pin with like a carriage bolt, not carriage bolt, but it has kind of a flat head on one side, and it only clips on one side. This gun has clips on both sides. So, we got to pull this guy out. I'm going to do that off camera, but you got to be careful pulling these out. As you know, if you're familiar with these E-clips at all, just make sure that as you're pulling it out that you're keeping kind of some your finger on it somewhere so the stupid thing doesn't get away from you. And with the factory spring in here, there is some pressure. Once you get this pin pulled out, this whole thing's going to come up. So just make sure you're kind of holding on to stuff so it doesn't get away from you. Okay guys, so once you get that pin pulled out, this is what mine looks like. You can see there's another clip on the other side. So that's all there is to that. Like I said, I think some of them have a solid end on one end, and you just clip the one end. So, alright guys, so you can see if you have a factory one, come on, focus. At this point with that pin out, this trigger wants to come flying up out of there. We gotta push this guy forward. It would be with their factory spring, it's going to be sitting up like this. This is the spring that's in here is cut just right where there's just a little bit. It sticks up just a little bit, just enough where you got to push it down just a little to get that pin in there. So let's pull this guy out. We can try to take a look. Let's put it down here. There's a replacement screw. You can see it's got a lot more treble than that stock screw. There's not a ton of, I mean really, that's probably too much screw. You could get a shorter one if you want. But that's what I got. I didn't want to come up short. So, let's see. Also, something that I did down inside here. I did see a video of a guy, and he took this out, and it looked like there were some factory shims in here, but my gun did not have anything in here. It allowed this sear to just float back and forth. Come on, freaking focus. It could float back and forth all the way across here, which I don't think is a big deal. But I thought, well, while I got it apart, I'm going to make a couple little shims to put in there. Now, I'm sure you could go to Menards or something like that and find some plastic washers or something to put in there, but I'm going to show you guys what I did here at home just to make it a little easier on me. Okay guys, so got your old pen here. See, this is a little thicker walled than like a Bic, just a regular old ballpoint pen. You can use one of those too, I suppose. It wouldn't be a big deal, but I thought, this is a little thicker walled, so I'm going to use this guy. And all I did, guys, is I took my utility knife with a good sharp blade on it, and I just kind of put it up here. I'm like, okay, looks like I need to cut it. No, not so thick. Now, I'm going to lie to you, it took me 3 or 4 shots at getting them both cut right. So, but it's not a big deal. Pins are cheap. There's plenty of them around. So, all you gotta do, guys, is put this guy in here. Now, I'm not gonna do it because it's one-handed, and I'll end up probably cutting myself. So, but you're gonna hold it with this, guys, and as long as you got a good sharp blade, and you just apply pressure and roll this guy back and forth, it'll slice right through that thing. And then when you get ready to do that, I'm not going to take this part out. It's not hard to do, guys. It's easy, but I don't feel like taking it all out. So you take one of these pins out. Again, this thing's pinned on both sides, and then you can slide that pin out in the sear. And if at that point, if you want to, you could pull that sear out and do some polishing on it, guys. But I really am not. I'm not unhappy with it the way it is. I mean, I've seen a couple videos where guys say that this trigger is really, you can really feel it grinding and stuff like that, and I don't feel that. My only issue with it was that really super long first stage. I just did not like that. I like it to be real short. So anyway, so you're going to pull one of these pins out and pull out this pin. Now, you got to keep in mind when you're doing that, come on, focus. As you're doing that, messing with this pin, this rod here, it's just part of the system that keeps you from pulling the trigger when the brake barrel is broke. It's like in my F4, it's attached pretty well here. Here, guys, it's just, I mean, you can pull it right off. And it's under spring tension back here. Now, for me, with my big old freaking ham hands, when I was trying to work this thing back in and get them little shims that I made in there, I kept popping this thing off. So just be careful of that. And two, this thing is plastic, which I thought was kind of, I was like, hey, plastic. And I think that would be metal, but it's not. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. But just be aware of that. This thing does like to pop off of this and try to get away from you. So anyway, after getting my shims in, getting my sear set back down, you can see, guys, if yours is set up like mine that didn't have those in there, this sear is real floppy. It'll just flop right down in there. And I cut them just enough where it'll hold it up out of the way. It's not binding it up or anything like that. So like I said, it took me a few cuts on those to get it where I wanted it. The first one was like super tight, and I was like, it's not gonna work. So anyway, so then this spring sits down inside here. I'm gonna pick this guy out. Bear with me here. Try not to lose it. So here's my little spring that I replaced, or that I replaced the stock one with. So let's sit down here and take a look at this guy. Alright, guys, here is the stock spring. Here's the spring that I cut in half, and then, like I said, guys, I took and cut one more coil off of this half to shorten that up just a little bit more. Here is the stock screw, and here's the replacement that we're putting in it. And as you can see, it's quite a bit longer little screw there, so that's what you're going to put in there. Alright, we got our little spring set back down in there. I just use my pick to set it down in there, and that can be a little tedious getting that thing in there, especially with it being shorter than the stock one. And we're going to bring our sear down. And you see, guys, it's quite a bit shorter, but it still does have good spring to it. You can, before putting your pin back in, I did buy some of these little stainless steel washers to help take up some of the play this way and this way. But by the time I got everything put back together, guys, it's really not enough to really bug me that much. So I just, and you know, trying to get those in there and get the pin in and get everything lined up is going to be kind of a pain. There's just not enough slop in that thing to make me go, boo, I'm going to put them in. So I just said, nah, to hell with it. I'm not putting them in. Maybe later, if I get bored, need something to do, I'll put them in. So I'm going to go ahead and put this pin in, and then I'm going to talk about adjusting this trigger. One thing I forgot to mention, when you're putting that pin back in, this is some silicone lubrication. Use some lubrication of some kind on there, guys. Just to keep that baby slipped up now. I'll pull back on this, guys, and you're going to see, I mean, I don't know, it doesn't look that great, but I'm telling you, the travel's definitely less than factory after getting this screw set where you want it. And when this thing is cocked, guys, the first stage is about like that. I mean, there's nothing to it. And then it's real crisp, pop. I mean, it just goes. So the first stage is hardly anything now. I'm going to be doing a shooting video on this gun later, and I might try to get some video of that trigger. But it's like 4:30 in the morning here, so I'm not going to be outside shooting my air gun in the neighborhood at this time of the morning. So let's talk about adjusting the screw. Now this is where, because it's a standard screw, it uses a standard hex. Now it is, I believe, a 3/32. I'm sure, depending on where you're getting it from, they're probably all going to be a 3/32. But let me pull this guy out here and we'll check it out. Yeah, guys, it's a 3/32. So anyway, the nice thing with the stock on this gun is you can put this screw in, and as you probably know if you have one, you can adjust it through this little hole right here. So what I did initially was try to hold this freaking thing still. I ran that screw all the way down, and then I put the gun together, and I took it outside, you know, cocked it, stuck a pellet in it, closed it up, and I'm going to tell you, with that thing all the way down, you breathe on that thing and it's going to go off. I mean, it's a hair trigger. So this was 2 full turns back, and I like it right where it's at. Now you can adjust it more if you want, but I've got it set, like I said, guys. This first stage is almost completely eliminated for me, and it comes back just a little bit, and then it's ready to fire, and then it cracks off. So, but like I say, you can turn that thing back, and you can fiddle around with that adjustment. But just know, with this 4 to 40 by 3/8, if you got this thing all the way down, guys, you move it like this much, it's going to fire. I mean, it's super hair trigger. And I didn't even test the safety at that point to see if it was going to fire with the safety on, if it was that close. But with 2 turns back, you got a little bit of first stage, and then with your safety on, you can pull on that thing with it cocked, and it's not going to fire. So I felt like that was a pretty good spot to set it up. Oh, and guys, don't forget to put a little bit of Loctite on that screw, so it stays in place. That's where the Loctite, use blue, not red. You don't want to use the red on it. It'll make it about impossible to get out. So anyway, use a little Loctite on there. That's what I did to this thing, guys. Thought you know, it's a little different than the other videos that I've seen. Some similar stuff, but. And it's really cheap too, guys. The screws were like $1.40 something. If you can get the springs at Menards, this was like 88 cents or something like that. You got a ballpoint pen laying around your house, that's free. So for $2 or $3 and some time, you're gonna really improve this trigger. So that's about all I got on this one, guys. Thanks for watching.